Greetings, welcome to Service Scholars Academy. Today we are going to start on geography, and we will start on the topic in chapter 1, where we are going to deal with weather and climate, and then our units will be divided into 4 units. We are going to focus on air masses. We focus on unit 2, we focus on air masses affecting Zimbabwe and Southern Africa. And then unit 3, we focus on types of the climate types on a global scale, and then interpretation of climatic data on the unit 4. So on our first chapter, the objectives by the end of the chapter, after these lessons, you should be able to describe an air mass, classify air masses, describe types of air masses and their characteristics, describes weather associated with air masses affecting Zimbabwe and Southern Africa, describe weather conditions associated with intertropical convergence zone, describe and explain the changing position of the intertropical convergence zone with seasons, explain the basis for climatic classification on a global scale, describe the characteristics of the world climatic regions, and interpret climatic graphs and tables. So now, moving on from this chapter, let's get into the introduction. So air masses play a crucial role in regulating global temperatures as they blow from one region or area to another in response to pressure patterns. They greatly influence our global temperatures and rainfall patterns, which are the basis of the classification into world climatic regions. So the classification helps us to understand and interpret the climatic data, which is crucial in making weather forecasts. And the interpretation is also important in understanding the seasonal patterns of rainfall, which is a direct bearing on humans, right, and daily activities. So the chapter is going to give a detailed explanation on the weather patterns associated with the different air masses on the globe, and also well-labeled maps and illustrations that can help you clarify. So you get to have your geography book with you when you are listening to these audio lessons. Now, unit 1, air masses. As we have discussed, these are large volumes of air blowing on an extensive surface with fairly uniform or homogeneous characteristics. So these characteristics include temperature, humidity, which is moisture content. Air masses, they help in regulating temperatures at local and global scales. So when an air mass is forced to rise, it results in the formation of rainfall. So the mechanism in which air is forced to rise is different, but the process that operates when air has been forced to rise is basically the same. So air is forced to rise by 3 mechanisms, which are conversion, convergence, and or by physical barrier or an obstacle. For example, mountains. So what is conversion? So conversion is a process whereby the sun hits the ground as shortwave radiation. So the ground absorbs the heat and reflects it back as longwave radiation. The air above the ground is heated from below, and powerful conversion currents are set. So the air is forced to rise, it cools and condenses, leading to the formation of convectional rainfall. So it happens when the sun hits the ground as shortwave radiation, which reflects back the heat as longwave radiation, which forces the air to rise, cools and condenses, leading to the formation of convectional rainfall. Then we have convergence, when 2 air masses of different characteristics, so take note, 2 air masses that have different characteristics are meeting. They do not really mix freely with each other, but they form a frontal line or a boundary. So a front separates the 2 air masses. The boundary formed is called a front. When a moist air is forced to rise over cold air, because warm moist air is less dense. When warm moist air rises, it cools and condenses to form clouds and resultantly rainfall. What happens is that warm air is less dense than cold air, therefore it is forced to rise. And when it is forced to rise, it cools, condenses, and forms rainfall. Then we have a physical barrier or obstacle. When warm moist air meets a physical barrier, it is forced to rise over the mountains or hill. The warm moist air rises, expands, cools, and condenses, leading to the formation of relief or orographic rainfall. So what you need to understand in this topic is that we have 4 different types of mechanisms where the air is forced to rise, right? So these 3 different mechanisms, convergence, and a physical barrier. What is happening simply is the rising of the air to condensation level, and when it reaches condensation level, they form clouds, and when they form clouds, the resultant is rainfall. So whether it's a physical barrier, whether it's a frontal line where 2 air masses meet, or it's latent heat, solar radiation, the resultant is rainfall. Therefore, what you need to take note is that when 2 air masses meet, it's convergence. When the ground is hit through shortwave solar radiation and is converted, the heat reflects back as longwave radiation, it is convergence. And then when it meets a physical barrier, it forms orographic rainfall. So we move on to the second lecture, where we are going to be classifying the characteristics of air masses. So follow our Facebook page, also our YouTube pages as Survey Scholars Academy, or you can contact us on +263 782 108 484 to receive online or in-person tutorials. Thank you.